Welcome back to Mbuya Nyamkuta Glass Table Talk. Today we are really going down and down with that baby.
Yeah.
That baby is in trouble today.
In trouble.
We are now talking about hips. There is what is called CHD, which is congenital hip dysplasia, which affects some babies. I'm not too sure about the rate, but it's a good number of babies. If you ever noticed that someone anozvarwa onyatsokura zvakanaka but achilimpa a bit, and then as they get older their other leg starts getting shorter, that could be traced back to congenital hip dysplasia. Maybe that child haana kunyatsotarisiswa paakazvarwa kunzi my hips akari aligned zvakanaka here. I only got to know about it when I learned about it in college, that could be the cause why one leg would become shorter. So when we check my hips evana when they are born, we are looking at if the hips are dislocatable or there is a dislocated hip. Because panosvarwa mwana panoforma hip joint yemwana, it's a ball and socket, just like the shoulder joint is also like a hip and socket. But kumuva kunenge kuchita mwana kwekwe, I'll come back to why we shouldn't have babies in the car seat for too long. Kumuva kunenge kuchita mwana facha kunenge kuchita mwana kwekwe, izvozvo bit by bit the boy is getting into the socket, getting embedded into the socket. That's why it's so important to leave mwana achingotamba dzimwe nguva. It actually helps with hip development. So kana hip riri risina kunyatsopinda into the socket, you can find that patinocheka mwana paya tichiita ma tests atinoita, you can find that you can dislocate the hip and you can put it back, you can push it back into the socket. Pozoita hip ritongori dislocated, ritombori into the socket, ritongori dislocated. Both a dislocatable hip and a dislocated hip, they should be referred to the pediatric orthopedics to get that baby put in a brace to get those hips really aligned into the socket. Because zvikasiwa zvakadaro, you'd find kuti mwana iya anostruggle pakukambaira, anostruggle pakuzomira and things like that. What else?
The alignment as well, makumbo.
What you can do to make sure that at home, what you can do to make sure your baby's hips are well aligned. Pamunopfekedza mwana napi paipai mapedza, get into the habit yekubata like makumbo emwana and make sure kuti my knees, they are at the same height. So kachaidzo they are at the same height as well. And panotanga kukambaira mwana paipai, make sure kuti mwana haasi kukambaira achidhonza rimwe gumbo, because that could be a sign yekuti mwana uyu haana kunyatsoita sei rimwe hip harina kunyatsogara into the socket zvakanaka, saka ari kutadza kunyatsoita that symmetrical movement yekuti ari kukambaira zvakanaka. Which brings me to the topic yema-car seats. Beautiful things, safe for the baby when you're traveling with a baby in a car. But I see the trend that mothers take the car seat out of the car into the house because baby is asleep. I'll leave the baby in the car seat. I'll get on with my cooking, tidying up and things like that. Detrimental for the baby's hip development, because mwana kuramba akagara kadaiso haasi kukwanisa kumova my hips zvakanaka because makamisa maharness car seat. So the car seat should only be used for what it's intended for in the car. In actual fact, if you find yourself bringing the car seat into the house, ask yourself why. I would rather you live with a baby wawamutsa than mwana anozoita ma problems. The thing is, once you start getting into that habit, you then get to think it's okay. We are all human. We get into a comfort zone. You think it's okay. I bring my car in the car seat, they sleep for 3-4 hours whilst I get on with things. Once you get into that comfort zone, to unlearn doing those things and how will it affect your baby it will take time, and by that time you are doing some damage to your baby's hip development. So it's something we really discourage, prolonged periods in a car seat. If you are going on a long journey, let's say you're going on a 3-4 hour journey, every 1 to 1.5 hours, stop, take the baby out, let the baby, change the nappy, let the baby kick about for about half an hour, put the baby back in the car seat and continue.
Not only hips, also mune makaisa handiti car seat mwana anenge akaisirwa mabelt aya anenge akaenda nepaside peneck pake. There are very important nerves on the side of the baby's neck, which if compressed for too long might cause problem, because the neck has got something to do with the brain and the spinal cord. So at times you find that if these nerves are compressed, your baby might have problems, serious problems that might be avoidable just because of like the act of like leaving baby in the car seat for too long.
There is also what is called the brachial plexus nerve here. That is important for hand movement. If those nerves are compressed for too long, even when we deliver babies, we make sure we don't pull babies very vigorous, because that can damage the brachial plexus nerve, where you find that someone's hand just hangs around, just hangs, it doesn't work. It's because that nerve has been damaged. So convenient car seats as they are, let's be mindful about how they can be detrimental to the baby's health. Is we've already pointed out, me and Auntie Tari. Is there anything you want to add on?
Maybe just to touch on, if we go down to tsoka, the foot, we can talk about talipes. Kanote mwana anozvarwa achikwanisa kutsika netugunwe chete, handiti. That's a congenital abnormality. It's something that happens, just it's nature, just like we've said. It's not because of you. It's not like you've done something wrong. It's because it's just nature. That's how the baby is born. But what's important is, what are you going to do afterwards? And there could be interventions that can be done to your baby while it can be done, like while the bones and the tendons are still tender, for them to be corrected. If you take your baby to the hospital, they might manipulate or they might stretch or do whatever to the tendons to try and correct that. And mwana anogona. I've seen a lot of corrections and vana vanotokwanisa kutotsika zvakanaka. And then kune mamwewo anenge ari extreme ekuti they cannot be corrected. Inenge itongorochi abnormality. Just embrace love your baby, embrace your baby, do what you can to make life bearable for mwanako. And then there's also what we call club foot. And there are some babies who are born this is not a congenital abnormality. It's something that happens while the baby is still in your womb. And it could be because the amniotic fluid, those waters, they might not be that much. It's a condition known as oliguria. There is little fluid that surrounds baby. So baby so if baby is in a particular position, baby is kind of like stuck in that position, because there's not enough fluid for the baby to be like turning and all that. So the baby might be born with that club foot. And also it could be big babies, and the baby is too big for the space that they're in. So their foot might be in a position that it will just be there, and then baby will be growing and whatever, their foot is like this. So it's very common. It can be reversed very easily. And baby, go at times anogona kuti mwana ngaapfeke bhutsu dzakaita the different sides, kuti yekuleft wepfeka kuright, yekuright wepfeka kuleft, something like that, to try and correct it. And then in extreme cases vanogona kumuisa macast, like chakaita ngeplaster sort of, chinenge chine chimuti pakati, I think kana makambona vanhu vakadaro, to try and correct that. And it's very, very effective, and it can be corrected. So what you just need to do is to remember to do it at the right time, so that you don't go to hospitals and say, makanonoka, makadai, so dai makadai. There's something going on with my baby. At times we see it at the hospital and then we correct it straight away. At times it can be missed. We are human, and you're the best doctor, you're the best midwife for your child. And when you birth your baby, examine your baby. See, is this the same? let me go to the hospital to have it checked.
Thank you. Before we go, also, matos, make sure to mwana matos essay on both sides. Zvinogona kutomiswa nana mbuya because maybe tacheka tichimanya or mwana wanenge vane ma-extra digits. Extra digits can be on both hands and feet. Those can be easily tied off, but musazvinonokere. They can be easily tied off and they can be taken off.
And then pane mango ma-extra digits anenge asina bonzo. Anditi ndo ari kuti bonzo anosungika achidona zvawo anditi because it's just cutting the blood supply and then it falls off, right? And then kune mamwe ma-extra digits anenge aine yatinoti bone involvement. Pane mamwe kuti anenge atori nekanzara anditi it's common, but izvozvo ndezvoti anenge akuenda kuma-specialists anoita zvemabhonzo anditi, so that vane zvavanoitawo zvine to do nezvemabhonzo zvekuti ikasmall procedure kanongoitika kuti zvigadzirisike. And you find kuti it might happen again pane the next child and the next child and the next child. It's very common kuti zvinodzokorodza
body yako zvainenge yakamboita kazhinji kacho inozvidzokorora. Saka isusu tongoramba chiita kuti kana uchiona zvichiramba zvichiitika ka ma-genes, it's nothing to do with kuroyiwa. So on that note, thank you for listening, and I hope this helps in assessing those babies and making sure they are okay, and you are taking them to the hospital early, and muchiramba muchiteerera mbuya Nyamukuta. Thank you.
See you next time.